I am pleased to introduce our next featured poet. Veronica Kornberg is a poet from Northern California. She's a recipient of the Morton Marcus Poetry Prize, and her work has appeared or is forthcoming in numerous journals, including Rattle, the Indiana Review, RHINO, the New Ohio Review, Plume, Calyx, and Thrush. Veronica is a peer reviewer for the Whale Road Review, and she is also an avid tide pooler and restorative gardener. Please welcome our next poet, Veronica Kornberg.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's really fun to be here. I'm so pleased and appreciative. Most people might be expecting me to read a lot of nature poetry, which is the usual thing I do, but I've been thinking a lot about the legacy of the women in my family. And so I'm going to read a lot of poems about girls and women, especially the women in my family of origin, the legacy of gratitude for their love in the face of adversity. So I'll start appropriately enough for a poem about my family. This first one is one long run-on sentence. Her work. From the bone to the broth, the hidden marrow of days leaching thin, from a wind whack of pie plates on bean and tomato vines, from hand-sewn nights, threads knotted and bitten, the work of her hands, the kneading, the whipping of cream for a cake, quick chop of the knife, quick check down the list, scrape of the chair as she rose, kiss on the hair, swipe of cloth in the soft nick of the jaw. Until deep in the evening, she finally sat with her cup of red rose, feet puffy and propped on a kitchen stool, the Trenton Times unread in her lap, as we ciphered our long division and the rule of the run-on sentence, while stock thickened in the pot, and the next day's dough swelled beneath flour sack towels. And we settled, hungry, for the bread of her voice. Thank you. And this is a poem about my maternal grandmother, who I feel like she probably went through more things than I can imagine a person doing. Heirloom, child's chair, sole survivor among things touched by my grandmother. The bent ash, soaked and rounded, gleams where a girl's muslin dress once rubbed. Scratches where buttonhook shoes scuffed. Patina darkened to blood mahogany, sweat silted into every divot. The husband lost to German cavalry, the daughter and two sons handed over to strangers. The starting over. How did it feel to watch my mother, late child of a second marriage, run her dimpled hand over the same ashwood, or tilt back on two legs and stress the frame? To see the seat canes breached, rewoven, such fights, such marmalades and moths this chair has weathered, yet it promenades still, with a subtle bend in the foot, plating light by my workroom window. Stealing mulberries after Robert Penn Warren. Walking, hungry, the concrete edge of girlhood, where 16-wheelers thundered diesel blast, road black as grackle, oil slicked, dead wood bristling the stunted scrub. Chafe-hearted, I passed a clump of broadleaf trees, holding fast to the cracked curb. the heaved slabs tilted and broken, sprouting soot-choked sow thistle and cockleburr. The pocked concrete drab, dabbed with purple splotch, ink blot, clotted with a drizzle of fallen fruit flesh. And looking up, I saw the colossal leaf sea of a mulberry tree. Green, shimmering high, high as the tangle of telephone lines, strung with sun-bleached sneakers and wind-flung trash, high as its blue lair. The shaggy green sky beast lunged after each passing truck, its thousand small black tongues beckoning. And so I placed my foot in the crook and climbed limb after limb, scraping knees and shins on the bark. Bark-shinned, I shimmied, lusting after those sweet tongues, and escaped completely into the high branches. A green, leaf-draped world I wished never to leave. But of course I left, with purple-stained hands, face closed, sated slack brain, bird treble in my ears. I crossed Route 31, not yet bereft of a short passing season. Its unlocked sugar of sap and rain, not yet aware that a trodden path will lead you back again. And I have, there were 5 sisters, and this is for them. Graphesthesia. This is how I learned to love, words traced on my back, letter by letter, fingertip language of my sisters. The body a book, the body an ear, an amphora filling, a slate wiped clean. First an L, the quick plunge, then plank at the waistband. An O, bumping over the shoulder blade. L, O. Is it long? Is it low? Is it loop? Make it love, I begged, for the sweep of their hands on the page of my back. It was lovely. Thank you. I ask your forgiveness in advance if I have trouble getting through this one. I think I will, but it's emotional. My sister. The 4 of us, Kathy, Ruth, our mom, and I, drove down to Maryland to visit Annie in a coma hospital where she'd been sent after she opened her eyes and moved one finger. The place was great. Therapy 6 hours a day, and nurses like strong, funny angels swooping around her railed bed. One terrifying thing, every week, the team tested Annie to see if she'd made enough progress to stay another week. And if she hadn't, she'd be moved elsewhere. Somewhere not so great, but nobody knew where. There was nowhere. We should call our congressman and tell him to do something. The day was bright and cold. We wheeled Annie outside and sat on a bench by the parking lot, squinting into the winter-low sun amid pocked mounds of plowed snow that had hardened to ice. We chatted in Annie's direction about a cardinal in the naked dogwood, about Mom's poodle barking hysterically at a snow woman in the yard, about the balls of yarn slowly morphing into a crocheted Afghan on the recliner. I heard us packing the silent spaces, cramming them full of news and pictures. Annie didn't have many words, but she could still make her famous bird face to show a little sarcasm, so that made the conversation feel familiar and less desperate. Soon, Annie began to fixate on our mother. "She is scary," she stammered. A kind of miracle. Annie speaking a complete sentence. Our mother blanched, then made a goofy, ugly face. "Scary," she chimed, waving her gloved fingers. It was the most adult thing I've ever seen. The way she swallowed that pain and turned it into a sweet lick of icing, a joke, a little nothing. God, it was awful. Driving home, we stopped for the night at a freeway motel, the four of us in one room. In the lobby, we scarfed down a buffet, honeyed ham and gloppy macaroni salad, dinner rolls spongy and soft as an old man's belly. There were 2 double beds in the room, and when I plopped on the corner of one, the whole mattress flew up toward the ceiling in a way that I cannot explain the physics of to this day. But I kept doing it, the mattress jackknifing in the dim room, until we were all laughing. We laughed and laughed until we cried. We were laughing so hard. So, apple picking. In the photo, my mother stands among branches in the orchard, holding an exquisite ripe globe in front of her chest. She squints into the sharp sunlight, eager to tell me, behind the camera, the importance of where on the tree to find the best, which to leave, how to twist each apple upward for a clean stem snap. She is 89 at the time, vigorous, a halo of white hair in lipstick and a striped sweater set. Her sit-down walker is off between trees at a view, tilted on the uneven ground as though she leaped out of it, tossed it aside. I want to say she looks like an aged Eve in paradise, but my mind hearkens instead to a summer in Lecce, the heel of Italy's boot, to all those Baroque churches covered in carved stone vegetables and pomegranates, birds and putti, where painted wooden saints rush from their niches. Polychrome in fervid blues, browns, reds. Those saints, how I loved them, how they strode forth, each holding in its hand its own pierced red heart, in panic or offering or love, each heart astonished, ablaze in gold leaf flames. Thank you. The next group of poems has a broader focus than my family of origin, and touches more on the more universal human longing to become who we want to be seen, to be free. Gazing toward Christine Blasey Ford's former place of employment. After turning back the clock, I rise at 5 because my body says it's 6. The dog waits at the door and I follow her outside. Feel the dark enter me. Black brew filling a tankard. Black river of stars. I keep hearing we're made of stardust. Instead, maybe we are dark matter, that mysterious force people keep searching for. Where I live, the stars are lavish on a clear night, but it's the chilly emptiness that flows in and out of me as I breathe. Heart, lungs, blood. Nothing inside me has ever seen light. All parts tick, blind, inside their skin casing. Behind me, coiled springs of dried wisteria pods explode like grenades, seeds spray like autumn buckshot, Doppler past my ears. I once stood in a tomb along the Nile, gazing up at a painting of Nut, ancient goddess stretched across the sky, her body full of stars, the children she kept hidden from her sun god husband. Imagine having a belly of light, a mind of phosphor. It's mating season for the great horned owls. 3 or 4 of them call from the pines, burr the night with black velvet. Somewhere deep below the mountains, the sun swims toward the surface, dragging the so-called scales of Libra on its long line. For now, Virgo touches the horizon, naked, winged, brandishing a palm frond, the planet Mars lodged in her left hip socket. From the dark hills in the foreground, one too bright light shines gamely from an empty parking lot. As if a light could keep anyone safe, I tell myself. But I keep standing there, listening for the dog scruffling in the dark, waiting for a touch of vermilion to lip the sky. Beauty. I spent Saturdays operating an elevator in the last remaining department store in downtown Trenton, a neighborhood of singed bricks and boarded windows. It was 1970. I was 14. A Dresden doll, said one powdered woman to her friend as they exited. I scissored the brass cage shut, thumbed the button up or down. The days stretched thin, and hardly anyone came in. I sang into the cavern of each echoing floor. Fragrances, men's shoes, lingerie, so luscious, the tongue lingering against the front teeth. Reading was forbidden, so I taped a Cézanne postcard above the red emergency button. Something to look at. On his way up to customer service, the manager said to take the picture down. I stared implacably at the blank green wall as he shifted from one polished wingtip to the other until the doors swung wide again, releasing him to plastic-wrapped mattresses under fluorescent lights. Late afternoons, the cross-dressers appeared, joyful angels in bright chiffon, cinched waists, and man calves above slingback heels. Laughter rich and streaked with ruby, a glued-on fingernail touching the corner of a welling eye. Thick-lashed and lined. Each week they teased, which floor for the ladies' room? Isn't it awful to get your period when you're not expecting it? I didn't have mine yet, but nodded mutely, smoothed my skirt with sweaty palms. Honey, they cooed, don't worry. Not long before I left for good, 2 women rode with me in silence, standing arm in arm. At the appointed floor, the doors stood wide, but they did not move. Oh, Ma, said one, I wish you could see this girl. She hesitated then. Do you mind if my mother touches your face? I stood still as a rabbit while the old woman's hands found my temples. Flowery scent on the cuff of her coat sleeve, the quick, practiced touch over my cheekbones and chin. beautiful, she said. Then in measured steps, they walked away and disappeared, taking with them some version or vision of me that had never existed before. Someone I kept hoping I could someday learn to be. So this is my most radical poem about wanting the freedom to be whoever you can dream yourself to be. It's a duplex, which is a form invented by Jericho Brown. I would also say one thing, which maybe most people don't know, which is to candle an egg, is to hold originally a lit candle behind it and see what was inside the egg, if you were an egg farmer. Field notes after Jericho Brown. In the billowed meadow of the night, a bobcat trots unseen between the sage and lupin. The soul hunts at night, smelling of sage and lupin. I check the box. I am not a robot. Outside the box, stories and dirt, robotic surgery of the soul. I light the candles. In this anatomical theater, I candle the egg, but the egg keeps its mysteries. Who I am will remain a mystery. I carry the entire throng of me into each day. Is it wrong of me to say I am a six-fingered star, a scalpel, a germ, a silent movie star, a bobcat sleeping in the meadow of the night? This is a poem called Received Wisdom. A horse fence, still standing despite posts cracked and rotting at the core, posts thistled with nail heads where various rails have fallen. Wood grain weathered, bitten deep into boards, silvery as flowing mane, and bearded with lichen, the colors of lime and cloud, turmeric. A bucolic image, but up close, the whiff of molder in the bone dust acre. What is a horse fence anyway? A nod of agreement, an arch of the neck. I knew a horse who jumped a 6-foot fence for a patch of extra green grass, then, sated, jumped back in again. Such amicability, oh, you confounding horses of the mind, pied and dappled, round-haunched and supple. You ripple the rough sod, wicker salted air, and race the length of the falling down fence, yet fail to vault. Even where the fence lies in pieces, you wait at the imaginary edges, one hoof pawing the ground, dust drifting from your back. And for my final poem, I'm going to engage with the ecstatic, which is my favorite place. What the ocean dreams at night. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Rumi. How can I explain to you that one night I lay face up on a bench beneath rivers of stars and forgot about the sea murmuring below me at the base of the cliff, only breathed its rhythm, the earth's pull, the moon's lift? Can I tell you how the sea entered me? Unburdened of purpose, riddled with travelers and hunters, shadows and chandeliers spinning in its currents. Though I am smaller than the smallest speck in the largeness of galaxies and time, I held an ocean inside the cavity of my chest, in the glass vial of my mind, sea, heaven, earth, porch, and singing. There was singing in the deep drifts, I tell you, singing. Thank you, everyone.